Oh, how's it going? So it's been a little while. I don't think I forgot about the BC. Actually, yeah, I'll worry about that in another video. But of late, the BC took a little side trip. Actually, the BC is kind of multiplying. This isn't the same one I had before. Before, that was a different machine. This is a R version. Kind of like that old saying, you speak of the devil and the devil appears. You speak of old radios and they start appearing. I got this at an auction for $50. And this is a R version. This one's a little bit different than my other BC, and it's actually in a little worse shape. Kind of coming in the middle here, so it'll have to kind of give me a little, maybe a little break, or I don't know. Go ahead and gee, speak of the telephone, and the telephone appears. And we've dispatched that little annoyance. Yeah, they're slowly fading away. Actually, this is we're listening to the tail end of what's left of the ABC broadcast. That's Australian broadcasting, and it's, I believe it's pronounced Shepparton. I don't know. I slaughtered it. So for those of you that live in Australia, you can give me a good scolding. Anyhow, what I've been doing here is when I got this BC, it was in really bad shape. Cosmetically, it's actually a little bit better than my other one, and it's only got one aftermarket hole drilled in it. It's also missing the knob for the dial lights. They seem to be a kind of a big casualty, and all this maze of wiring over here is my attempt to straighten the power supply out. And originally it had the power supply inside, and there was no hope of it running. Actually, it didn't run at all. The power supply had been disabled, so I figured I was in for a bad time. One of the problems I had was whoever designed, or should I say just cobbled a bunch of junk into the power supply, didn't do a very good job. Matter of fact, they did a really piss poor job. It's just the way it is. This is the tray that the dynamotor sat on, and I've completely stripped this. Originally, this rather formidable looking transformer sat here, and it sat on there like that. And there was actually a tube rectifier here, and then a bunch of capacitors. And this poor old gal has went through hell. It's amazing how really tough these radios are. A bunch of stuff has been stolen, and a bunch of stuff has been added. Over here, they've added a filter choke and then an actual audio matching transformer. And they wouldn't have needed that had they left some original parts alone. There's a kind of a filter choke and an audio matching transformer in there, but this is an attempt to get it out to speaker level. One of the other casualties of the BC here is that the power supply was probably about 100 to almost 200 volts too high. It probably would have ran, but it didn't run very long. And a number of little capacitors in this thing have blown up. And probably what was happening, it finally blew up something that the old owner couldn't fix or figure out what was happening. Or maybe they just got tired of fixing the thing every 10 seconds and gave up, which is probably the best thing that could have happened. There's also been some attempt to put a filtering system in here, and that's what all this rigmarole hanging on here is. It had a kind of a nasty short on the B plus, and I've repaired that. Actually, what I did was I clipped it loose, and we're gonna kind of take you into action cam mode here and show you this. This is one of these are these little caps are branded micro mold. Now they're not, you know about that. They're not micro, or excuse me, they're not mica type caps. They're basically what they are is flat paper caps. This one I've cut loose, and I don't know if you can see this or not. Probably not. Here's this one is in normal shape, and this one right in here, it's all pooched up, and this doesn't even do this justice. Maybe that does. So I clipped that loose, and that relieved the short. And I also had to clip another one loose. There's another one. Where's that at? Let me get my glasses back on here. And there's another one down in here somewhere that was really buried in there. Yeah, where was that? It was right there. That one I just unsoldered. So all of those are going to have to go, and I think there's about a dozen or so of those type of caps. It's going to be a kind of a pesky bear. This machine is designed, is designed totally different. It's got these little kind of, I don't know, I've been calling these punch boards. They're not a board, they're a component board. And it's got all these caps here, which my other BC doesn't have. This is more of a first generation machine. And it actually has what they call the grid cap tubes. The other BC I've got was meant to be a little more easily put together, and I can see a big difference in there. I think as far as the running of the thing, I don't think we're going to see a lot of difference, but we'll see what comes up. Also, I've kind of peeked behind this little door over here. This lets you get into, there's a number of tubes here for the RF section, and they sit on a plate that's mounted kind of sideways. And I don't know if you can see this, but it's so you can creep up under there. I've been poking at every nook and cranny on this thing. One of the other things I found in this was this has actually, believe it or not, a regulator tube in it. It's a RCA, what is that, a 99C, 99.5C, something like that. It looks like a neon bulb, and it probably really is. Excuse me, it's a 99.1. It's a NE16. It's actually a regulator tube at 60 volts. And mine, because of being over voltaged by that power supply adaptation, is horribly destroyed. I kind of cheated, and you can't see it, and I'll show it to you amidst the wire and junk later. I actually used a Zener diode to fix that. That worked just fine. It's just a standard 60 volt Zener diode at 5 watts. It works just perfect. It's a regulator for the local oscillator. So what I've been doing here is, originally I was going to reuse that giant chunky transformer, and I was going to design a new power supply with another choke, and what they call a choke input power supply. And that was going to be an attempt to knock the voltages down. My prototyping showed that it was possible, but there was a few things I didn't care for it about. One of them was I had about a 500 ohm 10 watt resistor in series with the B plus to get the voltage down, to kind of make the poor man's current limiting. All this heating and all this kludginess, and I don't know, I wasn't really thrilled with it. I lucked out the other day. I've been stonewalling this project, and that's one of the reasons you haven't seen too much about it, other than a couple other reasons. I've been fiddling around, and I was cleaning out some stuff. Yes, once in a while I clean out things. And I discovered this little transformer here. This is off of what I believe is a Philco. And there's not too much left of it, other than that transformer. And that's going to work just perfect. Matter of fact, the voltage is a tiny bit low. And the thermometer is my attempt to see how hot it gets. It really doesn't get that hot. I've been running this has ran about 6 hours, and it's only 90 Fahrenheit, which is pretty good. I've got a new external choke around there somewhere. There it is. You decided to use these smaller chokes. I was going to build this all on a chassis I got the other day with some power supply junk on it, and I've reworked all this stuff and practically reduced the size of it to about 1/8 of its original mass. I could theoretically put all this back inside the BC. I may do that. I'm still kicking it around. One of the other things that this new design did was it eliminated the rectifier tube. I had a rectifier tube in that other design. And my new power supply is plenty quiet and has a few design bugs chased out of it. One of them being that the original power supply for this BC, the filaments even ran a little high. They're supposed to be 6.3. Well, actually, they're supposed to be 28 volts. One of the modifications to these machines is you rewire the filaments. And this one runs just about at like 6.4 volts. The 1/10 of a volt is from the kind of the new mains voltage we have nowadays, compared to when these were designed. So actually I've been listening to it and just enjoying it and its kludginess. Other than fixing a few things, I really haven't had to do too much to this. It could use probably a little touch up. The dial's alignment seems to be out of it. And the earphone jacks have gotten severed in the mad rush to get it up and running. Not me, but my predecessor. I guess given the choice, I think I'd rather work on the older versions of the BC. This is going to be a bit of a bear, but I don't know. It'll be fun. It'll be a challenge, and that's what counts. One of the other things that makes this radio not as going to be as much fun as the other one is that there's no mounting tray. These things have a mounting tray, and the mounting tray is gone. That's probably how you would have gotten one back when these became surplus. The mounting tray was stuck inside the airplane, and they were probably just busy yanking them out and throwing them into big piles as opposed to actually trying to treat them decently. Well, it'll be interesting to get the two to cooperate. One of the reasons I'm thinking about not putting the power supply inside this machine is I have two of these and I really don't want to design another power supply, and I don't have another transformer to use in this, so I guess I could use the big clunky transformer. I don't know. If I make an external power supply and a nice little cabinet, I can switch them back and forth. Well, there you go. So there's a little update of what's going on. So we're kind of far afield from the where we were, but we're still kind of in the ballpark a little bit. We're over the cheap seats. We're just about outside. We're kind of on the edge of the picket fence there, peeking in. So have a great day. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Take it easy. Have a groovy day.